Hey, soul sisters. Mindy here, and I've got a question for you. Have you ever wanted somebody to forgive you, or wanted to ask somebody for their forgiveness for something that you did, that you wronged them in some way, or you wanted to forgive somebody else, but there's something inside of you that just had a hard time offering that forgiveness, or maybe you couldn't forgive yourself for something. So, we're all imperfect humans, and we all make mistakes, and we all make mistakes that we don't even know that we're making until later on, when we see or feel the repercussions of what we did. And, there was no intention of harming anybody, but somehow you've done that. Well, as a part of my personal growth journey, I have decided to do this little forgiveness experiment, and I'm a little bit into it. And I didn't even tell my husband about it because I knew he would talk me out of it, because forgiveness is not logical. Forgiveness does not make sense on many levels. On some it does, but on many levels, it's like, no, don't forgive that person. They hurt you. That's terror. What they did was awful. Why do you want to forgive them? But a couple weeks ago, I read this book, Left to Tell, and it's about this woman who survived the Rwandan genocide back in the 90s, and she finished her book with forgiveness of the man who was responsible for killing every member of her family except for her brother, who was out of the country at the time, and he tried to kill her as well. Okay, so wow, I said, whew, this is amazing that somebody who barely survived, she went into this closet, this bathroom with 4 or 5 other women at the beginning of this genocide, just to save her life. And she spent 90 days in a bathroom with 4 other women, and it was like a 3-foot by 4-foot space. They barely could fit in there. She went in at 115 pounds and came out weighing 65 pounds. Like, incredibly scarred. You could hear the hunting, the people who were hunting her and these other women all around them, and just a horrific story. And I would recommend that book to anybody who wants to see what hardship is really all about. And the thing is that we're all meaning-making machines. So if something happens to us, it scars us, and we create meaning around it, so that, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, I don't fit in, I don't belong, I'm too much. We do so much to ourselves by creating these stories. And what I want to share with you is that most of our stories are not true. And through this forgiveness experiment, I'm actually disproving, through honest heart-to-heart conversations and asking forgiveness, more of the truth. Okay, so it's not my truth anymore. My truth is my story, which is a very limited version of truth, right? And any of our stories, yes, they are true to us, and there's another side to that story, because it's just a story. It's not the ultimate truth. And so after reading this book, I was just like, you know what? If she can forgive, then I'm gonna ask for forgiveness, okay? For my family, because we haven't always had the closest relationship. We have a loving family. They've always been there for me. I've always been there for them as much as I could be, being the most distant physically away from our family. And my own story has told me I don't belong, I don't fit into this family, they don't love me, they only love me because I perform, because I'm trying to be perfect, then they don't love me, but then they love, it's complicated web of a story. And I think that's kind of what we all do to ourselves. We have our own personal story that is a very complicated web of lies that seem like truth. Anybody picking up what I'm laying down? I hope you are. So anyways, after reading this book, I was called to forgiveness. And I have forgiven in my heart all the things that I feel like were done to me. to one sister who, when she left town after living in the same area as us for a while, she said I was basically the worst person she knew. And good God, that broke my heart. And I was able to really forgive her for that. I don't know exactly where she was coming from. We've had a little bit of conversations around that, but she had like put a big old wedge between her and I. But I needed to forgive her, because holding on to unforgiveness was thinking I was feeding her poison. Not that I wanted to feed her poison, but it's like drinking poison and thinking that it's going to hurt the other person. That's what non-forgiveness does. And it just tears you up on the inside, because you keep holding on to this painful experience, feeling like it was your fault in some way, and beating yourself up secretly on the inside for all of these things that you've been through. You're beating yourself up for the things you survived, the things that wounded you, instead of loving the part of you that needs you to love. Like you've got to be able to love the part of you that was wounded, but you also have the ability to love the part of you that made it through. The part of you that didn't give up. The part of you that felt like it really wanted to give up, but didn't. And took the next step the next day, and the step the day after, and the day after, and just kept going through. And there are resilient parts of us that are developed only through suffering. And yeah, I know it sucks, but that's the way this world works, is that we actually can grow into our greatness and into our fullness by loving more. By loving more, by loving ourselves more, by appreciating the part of us that did make it through, the part of us that had the courage to get up the next day, the courage that it took to face your sister at Christmas when you knew that she just looked at you differently than you ever wanted to be looked at. And so, okay, getting to the point of this story, what I'm realizing is that I am a full participant in my life, as we all are. And yet we don't take responsibility for ourselves 100% most of the time. What we do is, it's easier to blame somebody else for something that happened to us, and to blame an external circumstance or an external thing or person for the reason why you are the way you are, or the way that your life has unfolded. It's so much easier to just like blame it on somebody else, but to take full responsibility of your life requires you to take responsibility of how you responded to those things. Okay, so one of the stories of my life is that I never felt like I belonged. And so then I felt like I had to build this wall around my heart, and it ended up being like layers and layers and layers of walls around my heart. But I was the one who built those layers, not my family. It was my belief in what I thought I didn't belong. So then I created a story that said, oh, look, that's another reason why I don't belong. So then they're not going to love me because I don't belong here. So then I've got to build another wall around my heart to be able to block myself from their harshness, which maybe wasn't even really harshness. Well, okay, so this is a very tangled web that we put ourselves in. And for me, I needed to take full responsibility for that. So without telling my husband what I did, because I knew he would talk me out of this illogical ask for forgiveness, was to write a Ho'oponopono prayer to each of my siblings and to each of my parents. And the Ho'oponopono prayer is, thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And in this letter to each of my siblings and to each of my parents, I said why I thank you for being you, thank you for being a part of my life, expounded upon the things I was sorry for, the things I wanted them to forgive me for, and ended with I love you. And I sealed it, I mailed it, I put a kiss on it, and let it go, because this is something that God asked me to do. God asked me to forgive myself and to ask for forgiveness. And it's interesting because now I said, I don't care what happens. This is just something that I have to do for my own process of healing and my own process of growth. And they can call me They can not call me. They can be mad at me, whatever. And so I sent those last week, and I got a call from my sister today, my oldest sister, and this is not the one that told me I was a terrible person, by the way. And it was uncomfortable. Oh God, I've been crying. I don't know if you can tell, but I've been crying today because it's uncomfortable to take responsibility for your life, and it's uncomfortable for other people to see you take responsibility for your life. It's great. Like, it feels so good to take full responsibility of my life. But when you take full responsibility for your life, I'm just going to warn you that other people are not going to feel comfortable with that. And they're going to take it personally. Like, somehow my oldest sister, God love her, she's such a big-hearted person, but she takes pretty much anything that I say as if I'm trying to fix her, or that it's about her. And it's not. This is not being selfish, but this is not about her. This is about me and my process and my growth, and being able to own up to the shit that I've done, and to the things that weren't great, and the things that I fell short on. And it's not meant to say you fell short on things. It's meant to say this is how I responded to it, to life, and that's on me. That's on me, and I'm sorry if the way that I've shown up in our relationship didn't meet your needs, because I felt like my needs weren't met, and then I couldn't meet your needs because we were just crisscrossing like this and missing each other. Like, and so she gave me forgiveness, and she gave me love, and it felt really uncomfortable. And I mentioned this to my husband because I came inside, and he's like, "What's going on? You're crying." And he's like, "Wow, you just sent that out of the blue?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And this is what I would probably tell somebody to do if they were in this situation. And I want to walk my talk. I don't want to tell somebody to do something and not have done it myself. And so this is an experiment. And interesting enough, he's like, "Well, maybe you should just call your parents and tell them where this is coming from, so it's not just out of left field." So I called my parents today. So I've talked to my sister, and I've talked to my parents, and Mom was like, wait, I gotta go get your dad. He's gotta be part of this conversation. And she was actually kind of jubilant about it. And both of them said, "I'm sorry you felt that way, and we love you. We always wanted you." And they opened their arms to it instead of feeling like a wall like I did with my sister's conversation. But again, I had no expectations. I have no attachment to how people receive this. This is just this is me showing up and being the best version of me possible, which means taking full responsibility. So, like, two totally different experiences of forgiveness. Both of them given. One really uncomfortable, really tear-filled. Definitely cried with my parents, because this is me showing up as me, not the me that they want me to be or what I think that they want me to be, but me just showing up as me. And that's kind of scary, because for most of my life, I felt like I had to be somebody else. I had to be the person they wanted me to be. And that has not, I mean, I don't have a bad life. I have great things happening, but this doesn't work out for me if I'm not me. Like, that's what God designed me to be, is to be me. And that's what God designed you for, is to be you. And so what if we all just showed up as that? What if we all just said, "I'm sorry, please forgive me for my indiscretions. Forgive me because I didn't know what I was doing. You didn't either, and that's totally fine. And look, we're making it through together." And I actually feel really good about the conversation with my parents, because God, they love me. They really do. I remember back when I was a young woman just beginning to study yoga philosophy, and I learned this whole cycle of life and death and rebirth and all the things, and how our souls choose our parents. And I got on the phone with them. I lived in Alaska at the time. They're in Nebraska, and I was like, oh my gosh, I chose you two to be my parents. And they're totally Catholic. And they're like, oh, that's great, honey. We're so glad that you did. Right? Somehow these two who I was blessed to be born to them, they keep loving me. And that's great. Even when I don't understand, even when I'm trying to unpack all of what I've put myself through, all of what I've lived through, they're there and they still say love you. They still show up and still love me. Even when I am uncomfortable and when anyways, I feel like forgiveness is absolutely unreasonable. It's absolutely illogical, and it's the only thing that it is going to really help you heal. And so I'm going to put this forgiveness challenge out there to all of you, and to look within your heart. Who do you need forgiveness from? Who do you need to say I'm sorry to? And don't do it because you feel obligated to do it. Don't do it just because I'm encouraging you to do it. Do it because you're being called to do it. Maybe forgiveness has been on your heart for a while, and this is just coming at a time where you're ready to do this. You're courageous enough to do this. Holy cow, it takes some courage to show up and to be vulnerable and to share some of the stuff that you've been through with your family that maybe they don't know about you. And maybe they won't understand, but maybe they will open their arms more fully to you, and you can open your arms back up to them. And maybe it's not your family, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's an ex, maybe it's your children, maybe it's you that you need forgiveness from. And this Ho'oponopono prayer, I'm going to just repeat it. It says, thank you. And you just say whatever you want to say thank you for. I'm sorry. And just lay it out on the line. And when I did this, holy cow, there's so many things I could ask for forgiveness for. And it wasn't so much specific things. It was more whatever was on my heart. I just said it. And then, please forgive me. And again, just speak from your heart. Please forgive me for whatever it is that you need forgiveness for. Be courageous enough to ask. Because if you ask, you will receive. And then lastly, I love you. I love you. That's it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Right? And take this challenge, this encouragement, and see what happens. Send your letter with a hug and a kiss, with good intentions behind it. Not because you're looking to wound somebody else, but to dredge up old memories or old wounds, but to begin the process of healing. For me, I was born into this family. I'm the last one, 4 kids. And I'm here to stop some of the ancestral stuff, patterns that have persisted for generations. And it takes courage and guts to do things totally different and to be open and to be vulnerable. And we are the ones who are meant to do it. This is authentic leadership. Being able to ask for forgiveness and to admit wrongs, that takes guts. That takes strength of character, but it also strengthens your inner knowing of who you are. That you were designed to do this. That you were designed to lead with love. Not with fear, the way most of the world is going these days. Fear will only get you so far. And I was not willing to allow fear to keep me from doing this. I was not going to give fear that power over me to say, don't do this. That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? That's fear talking. And I'm done with fear. I know that fear is simply just a call for love. 2 energies in this world, fear and love. And fear, it just really needs love. That's all it wants, is to be loved. And so what if we start approaching this whole world with more love, with more forgiveness, with more understanding. You know, you've got to understand yourself to a certain degree if you really want to truly understand what other people are going through. You know, you can't keep blaming other people for the suffering that you've gone through. Yeah, they had a part in it, and yeah, you're an adult now. You get to do this work to heal yourself. And that's what this is really all about, is doing the work right now. You're here to love, but honey, you can't love another fully until you love yourself fully. And this forgiveness is part of the process. It's part of the process. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but I am here to tell you that love is really the only way. And love must begin in here. You can only give what you're willing to give yourself. So if you are not willing to give yourself radical self-love, which I just heard that this is a book called Radical Self-Love. I've been saying radical self-love for the last 2 years. I don't know who this author is. I have to look it up. But radical fucking self-love. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to love this world and another person, whether it's a romantic partner or your family, or just have unconditional universal love for somebody else if you can't give that to yourself. So buck up, sweet sister. If you want to lead, let's start here. Let's see where fear is trying to grip us and hold us down into this little package, this little box. And break free. Break free from the fear that so thinks it's in charge of you. And let love have a little new adventure. Experiment with love. Experiment with forgiveness. It's kind of freaking crazy. I still have 2 more siblings I haven't talked to about this. I'll keep you posted on it. But do a forgiveness experiment in your own life and see what happens. Do your part. Be willing to have conversations down the road. But if nobody says anything, then you have to be okay with that as well, because you've now done your piece. You've asked for the forgiveness. And if they're not willing to give it, then they're drinking the poison thinking it's going to hurt you. Right? Forgiveness is not the poison. Unforgiveness is the poison. So have the strength of courage and forgiveness and compassion, generosity in your heart to do something today for yourself and for others. And I would love to hear about your experiment with this forgiveness, okay? I don't know if anybody has ever done this before. Probably, I'm sure. I'm not really, like, everybody's always done something before me, because we're all just living in this continuum. We're all connected. So if I'm getting this hit about forgiveness, I'm sure there are other people who are getting this hit about forgiveness. And let's just see what happens. I would love to hear your story as well. So you can either direct message me, or you can share it here with some comments. But I would love to hear about your forgiveness experiment. And if you're willing to try it, even like, oh my gosh, this is something I've been called to do, I'm doing this. And then just let me know that you're doing it and then how it goes. Tell me every step of the way. This is kind of exciting to see what kind of energy we can change through a little forgiveness. Like, you know what? Like, here's a totally different example. I don't appreciate the way my school board runs things. It's a totally different topic. But I love and forgive those women for what they're doing. And I can also take a stand to say, this is what needs to be happening in our community. Please listen to our community members. Like, forgiveness doesn't mean you're going to get like walked all over, that you're just going to become this squashy mess. Like, forgiveness gives you superpowers, right? Like, figure out what kind of superpowers you've got through the act of forgiveness, through asking for forgiveness, through giving forgiveness. Because it's definitely not worth it. It's definitely not worth it holding on to unforgiveness. And I would even venture to say that it's worth it to forgive somebody in your own heart, but I think it's also worth it to forgive somebody and tell them in person, like either on the phone or video or in person. There's value to that as well. I hope this all makes sense. I don't know if it does or not, but I want you to know that I love you, and I'm here to support you, and I'm here to support this process that you're in, this uncovering, this unfolding, this expansion, and I'm walking this journey with you. I might be a couple of steps ahead of you, but I'm doing this work with you. And if you're ready for that kind of guidance, just let me know. Send me a direct message and we'll figure it out. So much good. So much good is happening in this world, and it's just a matter of figuring out where you want to put your focus. Do you want to put your focus on all that shit that you've been through and all the shit that you're going through right now? Or what superpowers it's developing? Because we all have superpowers, so what's yours? All right? Loads of love. Loads and loads and loads of love to you. Tell me how your forgiveness experiment goes. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, gang.